Color grading can completely transform the look of your renders, but unless you've spent years inside a coloring house, you may not have the technical know-how to achieve the desired look. In this video, I will try to explain how to easily color grade your renders in Photoshop, and we are going to learn how to use Photoshop adjustment layers, what is LUTs and how to use them to give you the specific look you want, how to create your own custom LUTs, and how to load them directly in Photoshop. After that, we will take a simple look at layers mode and how to use it to make nice effects such as fog and vignetting. Keep in mind this might be a long video format, but I will try to make it as simple as I can and I will divide it into parts. So if you don't want to watch the full tutorial, you can check the video description for the parts that you want to see. Now let's start the tutorial after the short intro. Hey, what's up guys, hope you are all doing well. Welcome to the channel. If you are new here, I do videos about architecture design and visualization to help you improve the quality of your projects. So if you are interested, consider subscribing. Before starting, I just want to celebrate the new year with you. So happy new year to all of you. Sene saide ala الجميع. Yeni yılınız kutlu olsun. This is the last video in this year and it was a good starting year for this channel. I'm very excited to make new videos and projects in the new year, and I wish you will find them useful and helpful. Now, without further ado, let's start the tutorial. Okay, first thing, let's see our render. So this is the final render and it's in 4K, so you can see all the details, and I didn't add any adjustment to it. Now let's export it from 3ds Max to Photoshop. So go to the save icon and now let's choose our format. So there are a lot of formats here, but the most popular two are JPG and PNG. I already saved one as a JPG image. Now let's select it as a PNG file and let's save it as a PNG. Leave everything as a default and uncheck alpha and hit OK. And I did that to show you the difference between JPG and PNG. Now after saving our render, we can close our 3ds Max file. Let's go to our output file and let's see their images. So this is the JPG and this is the PNG. As you can see, there are no noticeable difference between the two images, so they look exactly the same. But as soon as we load our image to Photoshop, we will see the difference. So go to the JPG image and go to image mode, and you can notice this image at 8 bits channel. But if you go to the PNG file or PNG image, you can see that this image is at 60 bits channel. So what's the difference between 8-bit channel and 16-bit channels? So basically the difference is that the 8-bit image is made up of fewer tones than 60-bit image, and in our case we need the 60-bit image because we are going to make a color corrections and we need a wide range of tones to get the right result. To learn more about the difference between 8-bit versus 60-bit, I will attach this article in the description below. You can check it later. Back to Photoshop. Now I will close our JPG file. We will not going to work on it. We will work on the PNG file since it's an 60-bit channels or 60-bit image. Okay, so this is the first step, exporting our render from 3ds Max to Photoshop and choosing the right format to work on it. The second step, let's take a look at the adjustment layers and see how to use them. So first thing, we can reach an adjustment layer by going to the adjustment tab here, and if you can't see it, you can go to Windows, check adjustment to show them. This is the first method. The second method is you go down to this icon, adjustment, and you can see all the adjustment layers are separated by categories. The third method is you can go to layers and select new adjustment layer, and here you can see all the adjustment layers and also in categories. So the first category, which contains brightness and contrast, levels, curves, exposure, you will use them basically to control your exposure in the image. The second category, which contain vibrance, hue saturation, color balance, etc., you will use them to control the colors in your image. The last category, which is contain gradient maps, selective colors, threshold, let's call it the controllers, and you will use them to control some of the values in your image. So let's start by adding some of the adjustment layers from the first category to see how to adjust our exposure. So for example, let's select brightness and contrast, and you can add it from here, but I prefer to add it from the adjustment window from here. So select brightness and contrast, go to properties, and you can see we have these sliders which you can control your brightness to increase it or decrease it, and also the same for the contrast. And you have the option to activate it auto, but I prefer to control them manually. Okay, let's see the second one, which is levels. Basically levels and curves are the same, but in levels you will get this chart which is different from the curve one. So add one of them. I will delete levels and remain the curve one. So let's play with it a little bit. Let's raise up the black tones a little bit, and let's play with the highlight also. And of course you can add a curve to it to control it. You can add more than one control point, and if you want to delete one of them, just select it and drag it down and it will disappear. If you drag the black tones up, you will start losing some of the information in the black areas, and the same goes to the white areas. So I will set it to something like this, and that's it for the curves. This is it for the exposure tabs. I don't need to add any exposure or levels anymore. Now let's see how to control our colors. So the first one here is vibrance, and vibrance and hue saturation are basically the same, except that you will use vibrance if you are working with portrait image, since vibrance will not affect on the skin tones. Unlike hue saturation, it will affect on the entire image. So let's select hue saturation and let's play with the colors a little bit. The general idea here is that hue will shift our colors. So you can see here the blues are shifted towards cyan or toward magenta. Also the rest of the colors are shifting. Saturation will give us will pop up our colors. So if you increase it a lot, you will see now we have this strong contrast between colors, and if you shift it down, you will see that we are going to desaturate our image. And finally, lightness will add more blacks or more whites to our colors. So let's see how to control them individually. There are two ways. The first way is to select the targeted color from this drop down menu. So we have reds, yellows, greens, cyans, blues, magentas. Or the method that I prefer, to activate this icon, and this will let us select a sample areas, and Photoshop will decide the colors in this area and we can control them. So let's click on our sky, and you can see now Photoshop that selected cyans and it selected the color range that we are going to affect. Let's play a little bit with our hue. So let's shift it toward cyans, and you can see the color of our sky is starting to change. Okay, perfect. Of course you can play with saturation to desaturate the color or to give it a nice pop-up. Let's play with another color. So I will select this tree color, which is orange, and maybe I will try to play a little bit with the lightness of it. Okay, let's play with the hue. And maybe I will leave it at here, and I will give it a little bit desaturation. Okay, perfect. So you get the idea. You will select the areas that you are wanted to change the color of it, and Photoshop will decide the color range that you are going to affect. Now I will try to change the green a little bit. So click on the greens. Let's play with hue, saturation, and lightness. Okay, so this is before hue saturation and this is after. Let's zoom down a little bit and let's affect on this green. So maybe I will give it some hue and desaturate it a little bit. Play with lightness. Okay, perfect. And the reason that I desaturate some of the colors here, because the main focus here is my building. Okay, now let's try adding more adjustment layer to affect our colors. So let's try color balance. And basically by using color balance you can affect on shadows, midtones and highlights. So shadows will affect the color of the dark areas here and also here. Let's give it some bluish color. So play with a little bit with the blue and with cyan. And let's change our highlights or midtones to something warm. Okay, and now we got this split effect between highlights and shadows. So this is before, this is after. It's a little touch, but it will give us a nice effect. Now let's try adding a selective color and let's see what we can do with it. So basically you can change the targeted colors that you want. Let's change it to whites or neutrals and let's see the effects. So let's change it to cyan, and as you can see we can give our image or our render a colder or warmer effect. So let's go give it a little bit warm colors and let's play with magenta, yellows, blacks. Let's change the colors a little bit. So let's try cyan. Maybe we want the color to pop up a little bit. Increase the amount of cyan. Let's try black. Let's play with the whites and let's increase it a little bit. Maybe we'll change our yellows also. Let's see what we can do with there. Okay, so this is what we got after applying the selective color. So this is before and this is after. Finally, as a last touch, maybe I will add an exposure adjustment layer and let's give it a little push of the offset. Okay, that's it. This is before and this is after. Maybe I will decrease the value a little bit. Okay, that's it. Now let's see our render before and after. So let's turn off all the layers. So this is before and this is after. And you can select the adjustment layers by clicking on the last layer and hold shift and click down to the first layer and type Ctrl J to make them as a group. So you can turn off the group, turn on and off the group to see before and after. Now in my case I will ungroup layers. Okay, now after applying all the adjustment layers and reaching to the look that we want, let's see how to export all of the adjustment layers in one LUT file to apply it to another shot like this.
Check it out.
So basically, what is a LUT file? A LUT is a file that transforms one range of colors in an image to another range of colors. Okay, so how we can do that? Let's go back to Photoshop. Let's select all of the adjustment layers. So click on the first layer, hold shift and click on the last adjustment layer. Go to File, Export and select Color Lookup Tables. Leave everything as the default setting and hit OK. Now choose the folder that you are going to save your LUTs and you can also rename it. After that, hit save. And by that you have created your LUT file. Okay, so to test it out, let's turn off all of our adjustment layer and let's add a color lookup adjustment layer. So go here to color lookup and let's select the LUT we have saved. So go to load 3D LUT, this is our LUT. So select it and hit load, and you can see immediately we got the look as we done before. So it is exactly the same. Now let's load our LUT file to this image. So go to adjustment and choose color lookup, and you can directly load our LUT to this image. So we get immediately the same effect or the same adjustment we have done to this image. Of course, you can play with the opacity if you find it a little bit strong, and of course you can add adjustment layers above the LUT file. So you can add brightness and contrast, and you can play a little bit with the brightness, or maybe an exposure and turn down the exposure a little bit. But of course, by that you have already saved a lot of time by using a LUT file. Okay, about LUTs, you can of course create your own LUTs, or you can load pre-made LUTs. And of course you can find a lot of free LUTs offered by a lot of sites, but the problem is most of them are directed to photography or for videos. If you want to get LUTs specific for architecture renders, you can support me on Patreon, and I will share my custom made LUTs from time to time, and you can apply them directly to your renders. So back to Photoshop. Let's delete all of our adjustment layers because we don't need them anymore. We have our LUT file. Now let's see how to load pre-made LUTs, and also let's see how to save our custom made LUT directly in Photoshop, so we don't need to search for it anymore.
You going to work?
Bye, have a good day.
Okay, buddy. Alright, make some money, okay?
Bye.
Let's turn off the color lookup adjustment layer. Let's add a new one, and let me show you some of the pre-made LUTs. Some of them that I have purchased, some of them are free, and some of them that I've already created. So let's scroll down. For example, this one, we can control the opacity of it a little bit. So this is before, this is after. Let's see another one. Tap on the arrow key to scroll between the LUTs. This one also is a great one. So this is before and this is after. Of course you can stack a lot of LUTs, but it may give you unnatural looks, so I prefer to stick with one LUT. Okay, so now after reaching the looks that we want and creating our own LUTs, let's see how to add them directly to the LUTs list. So we don't need to load them every time. Let's go to our LUTs folder. Here is the LUT that we have created. You can see there are several LUT formats, and the format that is specific for Photoshop is the cube format. So copy the LUT file and go to Program Files, Adobe Photoshop, Presets, and 3D LUTs, and paste your LUTs here. Okay, so now you need to restart Photoshop to find your LUT in the list. So let's close Photoshop and let's reopen it again. This is the raw render without any adjustment. Let's add a color lookup table adjustment layer, and let's load our LUT. So directly from the list, let's select our LUT, which I have renamed it as day 2. So let's click on day 2, and immediately you will get this look. I will attach this LUT as a free LUT, and you will find it on my Patreon page. Of course, the link in the video description, and it's free LUT. You can download it and use it as you like. Now that's all for the day shot. Let's go to something more complicated, which is the night shot. I've already saved the render as a PNG file. Here it is. And also I've added the atmosphere element, which we have created in the previous videos. If you remember that we have added an override material, and from it we got the Vray atmosphere effect. So I've just saved it as a PNG file, and we are going to see how to combine it with the RGB one. So let's go back to Photoshop and let's open them both. Okay, so now first thing to do is we are going to add adjustment layers as we have already done with the day shot. So consider it as a second example or second practice. I'm going to start with the selective color adjustment layer. So add selective color and let's choose neutrals, play a little bit with blacks, yellow, magenta, cyan. Let's change it to reds. Okay, that's it for the selective color. Let's add another adjustment layer. Let's play a little bit with the curves. So let's crush the blacks a little bit. Let's change it from RGB to red, and let's change the red a little bit. So this is before and this is after curves. Now let's add something like hue saturation, and let's select the colors that we want to change. So let's play a little bit with the yellows. Let's change the hue. Okay, saturation. Let's select the cyan and let's change the hues a little bit. So this is the result after applying the hue saturation and playing around with it. So this is before and this is after. And to save your time, I've already added adjustment layers. So this is the color balance, this is the exposure to crush a little bit the blacks, and this is brightness and contrast. And also I have added a LUT file, which is I have already selected from the preload list. So this is before and this is after applying the LUT. Maybe I will decrease the opacity of it a little bit. Okay, that's it. Perfect. So this is before and this is after. And of course you can go with this look or any other look that you want. I've already done another one. So this is the previous one that I've already done for the workshop, and this is that we have created now. So here you go. This is the two looks using the same technique that we have already done. Now let's combine all of our adjustment layers in one single LUT file to use it in another projects. And also let's see how to create the fog effect by using the fog element or the atmosphere element that we have already done in Vray. So let's select all of our adjustment layer. Let's select this one, hold shift, select the first one and go to file, export, color lookup tables, leave everything at default, press OK, and let's save it as a night. Hit save, and that's it. Now you can delete all of the adjustment layer and add color lookup adjustment layer, and let's load up our LUT file. Okay. Now let's go to our fog element. Ctrl A to select all, Ctrl C to copy, and Ctrl V to paste. Now let's change the layer mode from normal. Let's hit the arrow keys to see someone to fit. So lighten or screen, both of them are working. I'm going to leave it as lighten and decrease the opacity from 100 to, let's say, 50. Okay, so to something like this. Now if I want to adjust the color of the fog itself, so this is the original layer or the original image. Of course you can add here an adjustment and change the color of the fog or add some contrast to it. But let's see if you want to add it now at the image itself. So if I add adjustment layer, let's say adding color balance, it will affect on the entire image, and I want this adjustment layer to affect only on the previous layer, which is in this case the fog layer. So I will select color balance and I will hit this little icon, and by that this adjustment layer is aimed to affect on only the previous layer, which you can see now they have this little line. Okay, let's play a little bit with the color balance. So let's go with something cool. Okay, maybe this, like this. This is before and this is after. Okay, perfect. And of course you can add a little bit contrast and also activate this icon, so it only affect on the fog color or the fog layer. Okay, perfect. So this is before, this is after adding the fog. Now as a final touch, let's see how to add vignetting effect. I'm going to merge all layers in one layer, so hold Ctrl Shift Alt E, and that will create a new layer with all the adjustment files to it. So you can turn off all the layers, so you have only one layer. So in this case all our previous layers have been merged into a single layer. Now let's hit Ctrl J to duplicate it, and let's go to the ellipse selection. Let's change the layer mode from normal to multiply. So now let's select from this corner to this corner, and that will give us an ellipse selection. Now hit delete. Okay, perfect. Now we have deleted the unwanted part. Let's hit Ctrl and D to deselect. Let's go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and now let's change the value until we got a gradient from black areas to white areas. Let's increase it. Okay, now we have, okay, now so the vignetting effect have blended well with our image. Okay, let's hit OK, and let's decrease the opacity to something like 15 or maybe less. Okay, so this gives us this effect, so a nice little touch. You can add it to your final shot. Okay, so that's it for this shot. We have seen how to use adjustment layers, how to create LUTs, and how to import them to Photoshop, and we have played a little bit with the layer mode, and we have added a simple vignetting effect to our final shot. Now to save it, hit Ctrl Shift S and change the format to JPG. Always use JPG because it will compress the file size while keeping the quality. So let's name it as night. Save, maximize quality. Okay, let's go back to our day shot. Also Ctrl Shift S and JPG. Let's save. Okay, so here is our final result. So this is the day shot, this is the night shot, and this is another variety of the night shot. And by that we have reached to the end of this tutorial. Last thing to say, I've got a lot of questions about hardware recommendations, so I've collected all the best price to performance PC builds and the best laptops for 3D modeling and rendering in one link. You will find all of that on my Amazon storefront, and I will update the list from time to time, so keep checking it. There are good deals for the new year, so don't miss the chance if you are looking to upgrade your hardware. That's it for this video. I wish you all the best. See you all in the next year. Bye.